Alright, hello everyone. So this short little video that I have for you will cover Module 5, which is the scientific method and description modes. And at this point you're probably wondering what exactly is the scientific method. The scientific method then is an objective, logical, and systematic way of collecting empirical data to arrive at reasoned conclusions. It is important to note that objective means that it's not influenced by thought, and empirical means it's based on observation. So as you can see here from this little diagram, the scientific method is an ongoing process, and there are many parts to it which we will describe later. The most important part that you should take note of is the hypothesis, which is a testable prediction which you will base your research on. So the first step would be to make an observation. So this can be done through your experiences or thoughts or something that you read. It doesn't matter where you come up with your thoughts to make the observation. Your observation just has to be something that can be observed or seen naturally. So the second step in the scientific method would be to come up with a question based on your observation. So as you're making your observation or thinking of what you want to research, what is the big question that you want answered? So the next step would be to formulate or make your hypothesis. So in this diagram, steps 3 and 4 basically go together. So you come up with your hypothesis, and that is your testable prediction. Remember that hypothesis should be if-then statements. So if something happens, then another thing will happen. So the next step would be then to go out and conduct research and gather data based on your hypothesis. So go out, answer the questions that you want answered, and if your hypothesis doesn't match what you are seeing, you can either reject that hypothesis and come up with a new one, or you can alter your current one to fit kind of what you are seeing. After you have gathered your data, your very last step then would be to develop some sort of general theory based on your data and your hypothesis. And if your hypothesis doesn't match your data or doesn't match the theory that you came up with, that's fine. You can just restart the process, make more observations, and alter your hypothesis. There are other ways of gathering data, and these are called descriptions, or description modes, description models. It doesn't exactly matter what you call them. Just know that these are objective ways of gathering data that do not require experiments. So there are case studies, naturalistic observations, and surveys. So the first description is a case study, which is slightly older, but it is a way to examine individuals or groups in hopes to revealing things that are true about the entire group. So this is really common in patients with mental illness. So one individual will be studied in hopes of revealing more information about the entire group. So the next would be naturalistic observation. So this is just observing behavior in natural situations. So the example here is that humans laugh 30 times more in social situations than alone. So this would be a naturalistic observation. They are observing humans naturally in social environments and naturally when they are alone. So the last description would be a survey. So this is where people self-report informations, attitudes, beliefs, or whatever it is that they are being asked to report. And then this small group of people will represent the entire group of people based on their answers. So with surveys, you need random sampling. So a sample that fairly represents a population because each member has an equal chance of inclusion. It is important then to ignore sampling bias because a flawed sample does not represent the entire group. You have to keep the population, which is everyone in the group, in mind. When you're looking at data that is taken from surveys, it is always necessary to consider the sample, because if the sample is not random, it is flawed, and therefore the data is probably not correct. So there's a lot to take away from this module because this is basic information that you will need to know when you conduct your own research. So the first is to review what a theory is and how it connects to a hypothesis. The second is learning how to duplicate a study. The third is learning the differences between the different description methods. And the fourth would be the importance of random sampling. So I do suggest that you look over your module very closely because this is information that you will be needing to apply when you do conduct your own research. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask or look it up. Just make sure that you are very familiar with each of these processes.
Created using Powtoon.